I'm Sabrina Kuhn-Godfrey.
Hi, I'm Deanna Kaplan.
Hi, I am Richard Watts.
The common sense choice for Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Board.
It would be our honor to serve you.
Make your voice heard by voting for Deanna,
Richard,
Sabrina,
and common sense. We need your support.
Early voting starts October 20th, paid for by Sabrina Kuhn-Godfrey for VOE, Deanna Kaplan for School Board, Richard Watts at Large School Board.
This is Terry Rozier, and you're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson on Tobacco Road Sports Radio on WWBG 1470 AM.
Like to have everybody's attention for a moment.
There's a stat. I don't like bringing up stats, but there's one stat about the Panthers.
In the world is James Harden better scorer than Michael Jordan?
No, he's more creative in that.
Traveling is not creative,
Brandon.
No matter what the score is, and they've said it themselves, whether they're up 10, down 20, whatever, they know they can turn it on whenever.
Why did you have to bring up the Cowboys in this conversation?
Lived in Texas for 2 years and just could not stand to watch Cowboys football.
All right, listen up.
Welcome to The Rundown. Here's Desmond Johnson.
And welcome into a brand new edition of The Rundown. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by Larry Frank from Frankly Speaking Sports. Got a question for us during the course of the show. You can hit us here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel, Facebook Watch, Twitter, or LinkedIn. And of course, you can stream it live on tobaccoroadsportsradio.com or in the Triad on WWBG 1470 AM. A bit of a condensed show today. I didn't realize, of course, we are the home for North Carolina A&T Athletics. North Carolina A&T playing Robert Morris today. Originally on the schedule I was originally given, it said 1 o'clock start. Just found out about 5 minutes ago that it's a noon start. So their pregame actually starts at 11:30, which pushes some of our stuff back here in the rundown. So Larry will be with me here first segment. We have David Glenn, award-winning sports journalist, sports host, North Carolina Sportscaster of the Year, multiple-time winner. He'll be on the show to go a little sports buffet with me. And Schuyler Callihan from Sports Illustrated, beat writer for the Charlotte Hornets and the Carolina Panthers, will come on to give us a mini Believe in Carolina Panthers episode as we react to the trade of Christian McCaffrey from the Carolina Panthers. And that's where we're going to start today with myself and Larry. Of course, the big news coming out of the NFL this week, Christian McCaffrey, star running back for the Carolina Panthers, traded to the San Francisco 49ers for a haul of picks, a second, third, and fourth round pick in the 2023 NFL draft and a fifth round pick in the 2024 draft. We'll start off right there, Larry. Who won this trade, Carolina or San Francisco?
You know, that's the $1 million question. I don't think you're really going to find that out until you see how McCaffrey does with the 49ers. I mean, we can only base it on what McCaffrey has done with the Panthers throughout his career. That's the thing with trades. You can't do it. But when you look at this, first of all, it's not a surprise. If anybody's surprised that McCaffrey got traded, shame on them. They've been talking about it. And the reason he got traded, Desmond, you have to realize this, is you have to go ahead and go out and get the most you can get for the guy at the right time. Right now, if he continues to play with Carolina, gets injured, his value goes down even more because of his previous injuries. They had to do this. And at the end of the day, I honestly believe that I give the Panthers credit and Scott Fitterer with this trade. You got a second, third, and fourth round for whatever coach is coming in to coach this team next year. You setting it up pretty darn well. You got a first rounder next year, your own. You got 2 second rounders, a third rounder, and 2 fourth rounders next year in the 2023 draft. The end of the day, McCaffrey had to go. We've talked about this last year, that you got to get the most for him while you can. And I think Scott Fitterer had to do this. I don't think it's necessarily, are they tanking or not tanking? I think at the end of the day, this was a trade you had to make. You still got Chuba Hubbard, who you have to find out what he's capable of doing. And I believe we still got Devonta Foreman back there who can also run the ball. So it's not like you're completely hurting at the running back position. And, at the end of the day, how effective was McCaffrey so far this year in this offensive scheme that they're trying to run or put in there, whatever they're trying to do? end of the day, I give the Carolina Panthers credit. Would we have liked a first-round draft pick? Of course. But I don't think anybody was going to risk a first-round draft pick with the injury past that McCaffrey has.
One of the things that I noticed when I woke up yesterday, because I had made a mistake of going into Facebook groups and actually proclaiming that they would not trade Christian McCaffrey for the past 2 or 3 weeks for a multitude of reasons. This was before Matt Rule was fired. And I just felt like there's no reason to trade McCaffrey at this point. Things changed over the past 10 days in terms of Matt Rule losing his head coaching job, trading Robbie Anderson, one of your starting wide receivers. I can't sit here and say they're not tanking. I know Scott Fitterer was asked that question in the press conference on Friday, and of course he had to answer it. No, I'm not. We're not tanking. We're still trying to win. That's what he's supposed to say. But if you look at the evidence, I mean, they just traded off basically the de facto face of the franchise. He's the best player on the squad. They wanted 2 first-round picks for him to begin with and ended up settling for a variety of middle-round picks, basically just to kind of move on. That plus, and I said this to Schuyler earlier, I keep going back to Sunday's game against the Rams and the offensive scheme they came out with. Now that I look back on it in hindsight, it almost feels like they were trying to show Christian McCaffrey off. Like they were trying to show that, hey, this guy's healthy. He can catch the ball. He can run out of the backfield. He can run in between the tackles. He can hit the edge. Because they used him on like almost 80% of their offensive plays on Sunday. And it was such a vanilla offense otherwise, where they didn't even try to throw the ball down the field more than 5 yards or so, but once. So to me, I'm looking back on it now thinking maybe there was something where, because apparently these talks have been going on before, and Fitterer kind of let us in on when this started kind of going. He said they started like last Tuesday, and they just couldn't come to an agreement. And then after the weekend is when they came back with a better deal, and that's when they started working this out. That fits right into my timeline of, okay, let's showcase McCaffrey in this game. Forget winning or losing or whatever. Let's just showcase him so we can get this capital back. I don't know if they're done because the trade deadline is November the 1st. That gives them another 9 days to move some folks. And I'm sitting there trying to think of who would be most likely to be moved. They say that they want to keep some of the defensive pieces that they have, which I understand and actually would be very smart because a defensive end or a defensive tackle or a cornerback, more likely than not, is going to play longer than a running back in the NFL. It's just the way it is. So guys like Derek Brown or Jeremy Chin, Frankie Louvu, Brian Burns, they're probably going to have longer careers with the Panthers than what Christian McCaffrey would have had. And that took a little bit of time for me to kind of, come to terms with. I was using the argument that people are like, yeah, he's 26 years old, but I'm like, yeah, but he hasn't played in 2 years. So really, you're counting 2 years of tread on the tires that isn't there. Like he hadn't had those hits. And I did ask Jonathan Stewart on the last Believe in Carolina Panthers podcast, because he missed chunks of time too during his career, but he played an 11-year career. And I asked him, do you think that, those times when you were out injured and had prolonged stretches where you couldn't play, do you think that prolonged your career? And he was like, absolutely, because I'm not getting pounded on every single Sunday. And it allowed me to be able to play an 11-year career. He was like, if that hadn't happened, I don't know how long I would have played. So McCaffrey probably bought himself some time with this. What do you think about San Francisco now with McCaffrey being added to, Deebo Samuel and George Kittle? Do they have one of the more explosive in theory, do they have one of the more explosive offenses in the NFL to you?
Yeah, and then now they can go back to the running game. I mean, you haven't seen that, in a couple of years from them. It's been relying on the quarterback, relying on Deebo Samuel to do a lot of the running plays they do. I think it definitely opens up. But first, about the comment you just made, longevity with running backs are diminishing. I just heard late yesterday, Todd Gurley, if you remember Todd with the Rams and just played recently with the Falcons, he's deciding it's about time he might have to retire. He's only been in the league since 2015, and if you add that up, what is that? 7 years, and he hasn't played the last year. So it's not. I think it goes back to how often have you been hit? How beat up have you been at the running back position to let what you have left in the tank? And I think that's what people have to realize. Yeah, McCaffrey hasn't played. Man, when he played before, he was getting the what beat out of him. So it's a fair question. I think the 49ers obviously, how are you not a better team when you add a Christian McCaffrey to the team? I mean, anybody that adds a Christian McCaffrey is going to be that much better. But I think it adds a lot more flexibility to the 49ers offense. You know, I'm a big Jimmy G fan. I've said it. He wins everywhere he is. I think McCaffrey is going to help this team a lot. And, some people may say in that division where the Rams aren't playing really, really well right now, they could be the front runners from a prediction standpoint to win that division now.
And it sounded like it came down between the Rams and the 49ers when it came to the services of Christian McCaffrey. I just find it funny that I've seen people saying, the Panthers are losing because they don't have talent and they've drafted wrong. But as soon as Matt Rule was fired, it was like vultures circling around a carcass, like trying to get the variety of players from off the Panthers. Brian Burns' name has come up. DJ Moore's name has come up in trade talk. I don't think that they'll trade any of those guys. I think they'll keep. I mean, Burns is on an expiring rookie.
Well, it depends what's offered for him, Desmond.
Yeah,
it depends what's offered. I think with the Carolina Panthers, everybody's on the table. Every single person, if you give the right offer. If somebody says we'll take DJ Moore and we'll give you a first-round draft pick, I think Carolina jumps on it because now look, they got 2 first round. So I agree with you. I would be very, very surprised if DJ Moore. Also, another pick, don't be surprised, and I'm calling this early right here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. If Cam Akers is released by the Rams, that the Panthers go ahead and pick him up.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about it the other way, or where Akers might possibly land. But, yeah, they're not barren. They do have Chuba Hubbard. They do have Deonta Foreman in the backfield. I'm a little curious. Yep. This is the thing, because like I said, I was thinking about the offensive game plan against the Rams and how vanilla it was. The telltale sign will be if they come out this Sunday and PJ's throwing the ball all over the yard, because he wasn't doing that last Sunday. And again, I think that might have been because they were trying to show off McCaffrey. If they come out this Sunday and it's not the same plan, that they're actually letting him, run RPO or actually throw it longer than 10 yards down the field, that kind of tells you what they were trying to do without them coming out and saying what they were trying to do. Because they can't say that they're tanking. They can't say they're intentionally losing football games. And according to Stu, no football player is wired to tank football games anyway. That's when you get hurt or injured because you're not going full force. No coach either. But front office will absolutely try to tank a season by doing moves that cripple the franchise with the intent to lose. And I think that's what the Panthers are doing. My only concern is that if they're doing this to get a high first-round pick, there's not really a generational talent I can think of this year in college football where you do something like that for. Like, I can't say that's Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or the linebacker from Alabama. None of those guys are guys that I would tank a season for. I'm hoping that with this trade, and again, they got the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round picks, 2023 from the 49ers and the 5th round selection in 24. You're basically getting 4 top 100 prospects if you do this correctly. Now, granted, the 49ers are 3-3 as it stands right now, and I don't expect them to stay at 500 now. Now they're adding McCaffrey, so those picks are going to be lower in those rounds as we go. But, that's just kind of how it goes down. Real quick, before I get Larry out of here, let's take a look at Sunday's schedule in the NFL. Looks like I'm looking around to see if there's a good game here. What's your thoughts on the Packers? The Packers feel like the Packers and the Bucks. Of course, the Panthers are playing the Bucks 1:00 p.m. on Fox. But the main story, I think, this week, besides McCaffrey getting traded, has been how the Bucks and the Packers haven't looked so great. Both of them 3-3 on the season. Aaron Rodgers playing so-so. Tom Brady's putting up decent numbers, but the offense can't score. I think they're averaging less than 20 points per game. If you had to choose one of those two teams to kind of get out of the doldrums or whatever, so to speak, between the Bucks and the Packers, who would you choose?
Well, first of all, going into this week's games, there's only one game, Desmond, I don't know if you saw this, that it has 2 teams playing each other that have a winning record. It's the Colts and the Titans. There's no other teams that are playing each other that both have winning records, which is very weird in football. But to answer your question, it's obvious to me the best team to come back will be the Buccaneers. I mean, the Packers are done. I've said it before the year began. The Packers have nobody against Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers cannot win it by himself. He has nobody. Then he got an injury to his number one guy. So, I mean, this is a team that is in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble right there in Green Bay. As far as the Buccaneers, the thing the Buccaneers have is they have talent around Brady. You look at the wide receiver position, they still have Evans, they still have Godwin, they still got Brake, they still got Fournette. So they still have, I think they have Gage. I mean, they still have weapons around Brady. You know, I think the key thing with the Buccaneers, and something that we've been seeing the past couple of weeks that we haven't seen from Brady in years past, his attitude has changed. He's getting upset more. He's getting frustrated more than we've ever seen him get. And people will say, well, that's due to some of his off-field activities. I don't believe that. I believe when you're on the field, those things you're not thinking about at the moment. I just think that he's frustrated. They're not winning. He doesn't have a strong offensive line. I don't think the Buccaneers are as good as they were the past 2 years, but they have a lot better chance to go somewhere than the Green Bay Packers.
It almost feels like Rodgers and Brady both chose to come back and are now maybe possibly regretting that decision. I know Rodgers got a huge bag for returning. I think he's getting paid close to $50 million this season. Brady, on the other hand, came back. It's kind of rumored that he kind of forced Bruce Arians out of the head coaching position at Tampa so he could come back. Rumors that he was trying to angle to get to Miami, all the stuff going on, with his marriage and everything else, whatever that might be. But I don't know. It's an interesting thing. And I think that's what stings the most about the Panthers situation, because they're 1-5, 1-0 in the division, but the division is a dumpster fire. Like, this would have been a really good year for Matt Rule to put it all together in year 3 and win this winnable division that no one seems to want to win. The Bucs are 3-3. The Falcons are 3-3. The Saints, I want to say, are 3-3 also, or 2-4. I can't remember. I think they're on a bye this week. So I do not see them on the schedule anywhere. Oh no, they played on Thursday. They're 2-5, excuse me. So they're only a game better than the Panthers are. So and there's still 11 games to play. So it's kind of weird for me to punt on the season when it's not even Halloween yet. It's just, it feels eerily similar to 2010 and 2001 when the Panthers went 1-15 and 2-14, and ended up out of that getting Julius Peppers in the first round in 2002 and Cam Newton first overall after the 2010 campaign. Somebody asked me, was this the worst season in Panthers history so far? I'm like, well, they've only played 6 games. I don't know, but it's going to take a lot to top 2010. 2010 with Jimmy Clausen at quarterback was horrible. That was a horrible year to go through. So hopefully we're not going to go through that again. I'm poking around, just kind of looking at some of the other games to watch for on Sunday. The NFC East has been very good, surprisingly. The Dallas Cowboys hosting the Detroit Lions at 1:00 on CBS. Cowboys are 4-2. I think Dak Prescott might be coming back for this game, so we'll see how they look. There's a couple teams on buys this week, so it looks like the most interesting games to me. Chiefs 49ers is interesting at 4:25 on Fox. That looks like a good one. The 49ers 3-3, but maybe turning things around with the acquisition of McCaffrey. If you had to put a pin on a team right now as we go into week 7 that you would ride with to win the Super Bowl, NFC or AFC, who would you ride with right now?
It's a great question because there is no dominant team right now in the NFL. I mean, I would think you gotta put Philadelphia up there. What are they? Undefeated still, I believe.
Yep.
In the
There's
NFC.
only one's left. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you definitely have to say Philadelphia is probably one of the more well-balanced teams. I don't think there's a strong AFC team right now. People will say Buffalo. Okay. So if you look in each division, I guess it's Buffalo and Philadelphia. But I think the dark horse of the entire league, and I'm not jumping on a bandwagon here, I'm just saying if they can keep it together, watch out for the Giants.
I'm finding it hard to trust the Giants, and I don't know why. Hell, they beat my Panthers.
It's the coach. The culture there is completely different than it has been in, I can't tell you how many years. This coach, I want to go on the field for this coach, Desmond. The guy just radiates the winning culture, and it's hard not to root for this guy when you watch him on TV and how he roots for his players and how how he does things. You know what the difference of this team was? It comes back to one of the first games when they went for I think it was versus the Titans, if I'm correct. where they went for the 2 points rather than tying the game up, and they won the game. That showed the culture right here in New York. We're not playing just to be okay. We're playing to win. And right now, that Giants team, you look at that division too. The Cowboys are inconsistent. Washington's not that great. So it comes down to Dallas, who has always found a way to lose, when it comes to getting to the playoffs. So it could be an interesting. Wasn't this a league just 2 years ago where the team had a losing record that won the division?
I don't know if it was last year. I know my Panthers have done it before.
No, it was 2 years ago, I believe. And the Giants could have got in, but Philadelphia tanked versus Washington or something, and Washington got it in and ended up playing the Buccaneers. That was the beginning of Taylor Heineke in Washington. But I'll tell you what, I'm just saying, you got the Giants over there, and then if you look at everything else, Desmond, who else excites you? The Titans aren't exciting. They should win their division. The Colts aren't that good. They play each other this week. We'll get more of a feel for that. I mean, your division, the Buccaneers are going to win by default. So there's really no excitement. The Rams aren't playing well. The Bengals aren't playing well anymore. So
it's almost the whole
I would say,
league.
once again, Buffalo and Philadelphia.
It's almost the whole league. I heard something earlier this week that kind of threw me back, that out of all of the NFL, there's only 10 teams that are above 500 right now. We're 7 weeks.
And two of them are New York teams.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy that there's a lot of bad football out there. And then you look around, it's like, wow, the Jets are 4-2, 3-0 on the road. It's just weirdness like that going on right now. The Raiders are 1-4. The Chargers are now 4-2.
The Chargers aren't playing well. Miami's starting not to play well.
Well, they get Tua back this week. They're playing the Steelers on Sunday Night Football, and then you got Bears-Patriots on Monday night to end the week. The Patriots, I don't understand how the Patriots are 3-3, because they should be much worse. And like every week we start off with, can you name 5 Patriot players currently on the team? And I can not find anyone that can name 5. I got to get Larry out of here. Coming up here in just a bit, Schuyler Callihan joins us to give us an in-depth look at the day Christian McCaffrey got traded to the West Coast, to the San Francisco 49ers. He's a beat writer for the Carolina Panthers for Sports Illustrated. He'll walk us through what happened, what the ramifications of it means, and more. We'll be back in just a bit. You're listening to The Rundown, WWBG 1470 AM and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com.
You're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson.
Find your next car at Auto Store of North Carolina in Walkertown. Their goal is to make car shopping and car buying experience fast, friendly, and easy. They have helped hundreds of customers get behind the wheel of a newer, reliable, quality used car, and they can help you too. Stop by and speak with one of their sales professionals today and drive away with your new car. The Auto Store of North Carolina, 4964 Reedsville Road in Walkertown. Give them a call at 336-595-8550 and view the current inventory of vehicles at autostoreofnc.com.
Hey, Panther fans. Right now on the SiriusXM app, hear the most in-depth Carolina Panthers coverage anywhere with Believe in Carolina Panthers, part of the Believe podcast network on SiriusXM. Hear from me, Desmond Johnson, and my co-host, Schuyler Callihan from Sports Illustrated, and Panther great Jonathan Stewart, as we break down the Panthers before and after every game through the NFL season. Your team, your podcast. Search BLEAV in Carolina Panthers on the SiriusXM app, Pandora, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Do you believe?
It's game time. Brother Cluckers has you covered. Check out the Clucking Football Feeding Frenzy for $5 deal. 25 fried chicken tenders, 2 jumbo sides, and 1 gallon of sweet or unsweetened tea for only $39.99. Special only valid via online ordering. Just visit brother-cluckers.com to place your order and enjoy the games. Brother Cluckers, located in front of the Food Line Shopping Center at 1547 Union Cross Road in Kernersville. Brother Cluckers.
Hey, y'all, Tiny's Mobile Auto. Is your car broke down? Are you stuck somewhere? Do you need a mechanic? You don't want to call a tow truck? Call Tiny's Mobile Auto. He'll come out to you, do your work, whatever you need done, your regular maintenance, or if you're broke down on the side of the road, give him a call. All you have to do pick up the phone and call 336-423-6241. You don't even have to see me. Just let me know what's wrong with your car, and I will come and fix it, y'all. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, I'm on the Twitters. Whatever you guys need, 336-423-6241. As always, I'll be seeing you.
York Home Inspections provides a vast array of home inspection services right here in the heart of the Triad. Exterior, insulation, ventilation, structural, appliances, roofing, radon testing, pest inspections, electrical, plus HVAC, new construction inspections, annual maintenance, and more. Owner John Taylor York has been in business since 2012 and treats each inspection as if it's his own home. Schedule your appointment online with John at yorkhomeinspection94.com or call 336-442-8315. York Home Inspections. Quality home inspections.
On Tobacco Road Sports Radio on WWBG. The rundown. This is Terry Rozier, and you're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson on Tobacco Road Sports Radio on WWBG 1470 AM.
Back to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson.
Welcome back into The Rundown. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, live every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. If you're watching this right now on YouTube or Facebook Watch, we are pre-taping because I wanted to get my man Schuyler Callihan, co-host of the Believe in Carolina Panthers podcast and beat writer for the Carolina Panthers and Charlotte Hornets for Sports Illustrated. Had to get him on to talk about, just stuff going on, odds and ends with the Carolina Panthers. Nothing really big happening. Schuyler, what's up, man? What's going on?
Oh my gosh, Des, I don't know if I could ever get a night of sleep. And same with you too. I mean, everybody that covers the Panthers, Hornets, anything Charlotte, it seems like we're not going to ever get one night of a full rest. Like what's crazy was last night, and typically I usually stay up to like 12:30. For some reason, I was exhausted last night. Now I'm like, man, I might just head to bed early. So I laid down at like 10:30, scrolling on my phone. And my eyes are like fluttering, like I was about to drift off. And as soon as I about did, my phone started vibrating like crazy. And I'm like, oh God. And got the news, and I'm like, let me make sure I'm actually awake and reading this right. And I'm like, oh man. So yeah, that woke me up real quick. I had to run out of bed, run through the house, try to find my laptop and get it up. So yeah, it's crazy.
So for those that aren't aware, the Carolina Panthers trade star running back Christian McCaffrey to the San Francisco 49ers in the dead of night Thursday. In exchange, they get, correct me if I'm wrong, Schuyler, they get a second round, third round, and fourth round pick in the 2023 NFL draft and a fifth round pick in the 2024 NFL draft. We'll get to how strong this may make San Francisco in just a bit, but same thing for me. Me, you and Stu have a group chat. Stu couldn't be with us here today. He had something else he had going on. And I was doing I think I was doing some kind of tech work for A&T or something. We were doing something on the board. So I was in the studio already, and I just finished. I just opened up a beer. It was like 10:30, I think. And I was just sitting there, and I was trying to figure out what to watch on TV. And then all of a sudden I got a screenshot came across my my phone. Actually, you know what it was? Joey Christopoulos, the host of Believe in Chicago, the Bears Believe podcast. He's been on the Rundown a couple of times, and he texted me. He was like, "Oh man, McCaffrey, wow!" And I was like, and that was it. That was the whole text. I was like, "What?" So I'm like on Facebook scrolling around. I don't see anything yet. I get on Twitter, and it's all like, rumors are. So nothing that really I couldn't find it. And then the Adam Schefter thing came through on my ESPN app, and I was just like, "Dang it!" Because like once that hit, I was like, "Okay, this is for real." My immediate thought was, I thought back to that Sunday game versus the Rams last week and the way the offense was deployed. And then with this move, along with trading Robbie as well, it makes me feel like they are tanking. Like the front office is tanking. And I've got some I pulled some audio. You were just with the press conference with General Manager Scott Fitterer, and he was asked this question on whether or not the Panthers are tanking. Of course, he's not going to come out and be like, yeah, we're trying to lose every game, trying to get a high draft pick. You know what I mean? Like, like this is what we're trying to do. But if you think back to that Rams game and the high school offense that they put out there, where it was almost like they're sitting there saying they want to win, but that's not winning football. They knew it. They didn't change it in the second half. They knew it wasn't working, and the Rams were catching up to it. And it was almost like they were displaying C-Mac a bit. Like, he's healthy. He can still do this. He can do that. It was almost like they were showing off a used car and that they wanted to sell the car.
To show it's still ran.
Yeah. You know, they didn't care about the win so much, but they want to get some collateral back for him. This was Scott Fitterer at today's press conference, General Manager Scott Fitterer, talking about the idea of the Panthers possibly tanking.
No, I think what we've had to figure in what's best for the organization, like I was saying. Our focus is still going on and going out and competing every weekend. We expect to win. That was coach's mindset this weekend. You know, the NFL is a business where you lose guys, you know, whether it's injuries, trades, whatever happens. The expectation of winning never changes. Those guys in the locker room fight too hard. They work too hard every day. So we owe it to them. That's our expectation as an organization, is to go out and win every game.
Is he lying, Schuyler? Because, I mean, you were in the room. You're in the room with him when he's saying all this. Was there a vibe in the room like, okay, here we go? He's just kind of going through the motions? Because that's how I felt listening to it. Like, dude, you just traded off the best player on the team that's 26, and you're sitting here talking about how there's some other players that we really like. We don't want to trade them. I don't trust that at all. What was the vibe in there?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, he's not going to come out and say that they're tanking. Nobody would. You know, Steve Wilkes isn't going to say it. Scott Fitterer's not going to say it. David Tepper's not going to say it. But when you trade your best player and arguably one of the best players in the NFL when healthy, and you're 1-5, and you also made a trade earlier in the week, yeah, I mean, it pretty much just signifies everything, you know, with the direction that they want to go in. And we'll see. There's a lot of time between now and November 1st. And that's a lot of late nights that we're going to have to stay up now because we have no idea what time these things are going to go down. And
this isn't it. I don't feel like this is it. Like, I feel like there's going to be a couple more.
I'll say this. I don't think there will be another huge, like, earth-shattering trade involving the Panthers between now and November 1st, but there might be one on a smaller scale. Now, who that may be, I don't know. I don't want to start throwing names out there and start causing speculation or rumors, but I think if you look at some of the older guys on this roster that maybe are on shorter deals or that maybe have been on the team for a while but may not be a part of that future that Scott Fitterer and David Tepper envision, then yeah, they're going to look at seeing what they can get in return to continue to get more draft picks. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think that they're going to openly admit that they're going to tank, but they know that this team is heading in a direction where they're going to be at the top of the draft, and they want to get some of those picks back that they gave away to New York for Sam Darnold, number one, and number two, when you're going into a rebuild and you're going to have a new head coach and you don't have those day two picks, that's hard to get someone attracted to this job, which I talked about yesterday on the Believe Show. Right. Like, you have to make this job as attractive as possible. If you get some extra picks, albeit day two picks, that's going to help you out long term. And the only way you're going to get those types of picks is by parting with very valuable pieces.
So when you were saying it, the first name that came to mind, well, two names actually, and they're on the defense. Shaq Thompson. I could see him maybe not wanting to be a part of a rebuild. Them still maybe be able to get something for him. And Brian Burns. Brian Burns is the main name that pops in my head because he's on the last year of a rookie deal, right? Like he's on a rookie deal right now. He's one of the better pass rushers in the league. If you put him someplace like Buffalo or something like that, Kansas City, one of these contenders, Dallas, one of these contenders that are like right there, where they'll be more than happy to give up a third or a second for him or whatever. At this point, do you do that? Because like you just said, them trading McCaffrey was basically, to me, waving a white flag on the season. That they're just like, okay, we've been kind of hinting at it. We weren't going to come out and flat out say we're not trying to, do much this year. But with firing Matt Rule week 4 or after week 4, trading Robbie Anderson immediately after week 5 or week 6, and now trading McCaffrey, there's still 9 days between now and November 1st, or 10 days between now and November 1st, which is the trade deadline. I just don't think they're finished. Now, here, I did clip another piece from Scott Fitterer today at the press conference where someone asked him this very question about the rest of the roster.
I think there's certain players on this team. We like the young core of our team. We're building, but this isn't a situation where we're trying to sell. We're trying to add players to this already really good young mix. Guys like Burns, guys like Brown. We'll always listen, but I want those guys here. These are guys that we win with moving forward. So
it's kind of left me today kind of feeling like, because like he's saying two different things to me. He's basically saying anybody can get traded if the right deal comes along. But they're also kind of saying, well, there's some guys that we don't want to trade and it would take a whole lot to trade them. I thought that was CMC, but looking at the haul they got back, just looking around, it seems as if everyone's kind of in agreement that the Panthers won the deal, that they got a lot for a running back. Now, granted, we don't look at Christian McCaffrey as just a running back, so maybe that's part of my problem. But for them to get 4 picks for a 26-year-old running back, I guess is good. Depending on what they do with those picks, that'll probably make me feel a little bit better about it going forward.
Yeah, I think
is there a player out there that you're looking at that could maybe go to?
I mean, again, I don't want to start.
I don't want to put you on the spot. Let me just write that up because I don't want to put you on the spot.
I will say this. Like, it does make sense if they were to entertain offers for Shaq, like a guy like Shaq Thompson, that would make sense. Or maybe like a Matt Ioannidis, again, like some of those older guys that may not be here or may not be at their best or their peak while when the team finally gets back to its winning ways. It still may be a 2 or 3 year process before they get back to being competitive again. So are those guys going to want to be here? Are they going to want those guys to be here 2 or 3 years from now? Because they're going to probably start to decline at a certain point. So I would look at those types of guys. Again, I don't think they're going to trade Brian Burns. I don't think they're going to trade Derek Brown or J.C. Horn or Jeremy Chin, DJ Moore. I don't think they're going to trade those guys. When we talk about the tanking situation, like, I don't think the GM, the head coach, or the owner have to ever say, like, we're not tanking. Like, the moves, you don't need to ask those questions because the moves kind of show them themselves.
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of my feeling on that. But as far as, like, Brian Burns and stuff, like, which you're right, it's tough because you hear him say, like, it would take something astronomical. That was the term that he said in regards to some of those core guys. Like, it would take something astronomical to move those guys. But it also took something astronomical to trade Christian McCaffrey. And a team was willing to do that and made the deal happen. So it's not like astronomical is impossible. Let's not get those two things confused.
And another thing, too, because me and Schuyler, Stu just went through this earlier this week with the whole Robbie Anderson thing in social media. Schuyler's on social media a lot with his articles and news as it breaks from the Panthers. I'm on social media a lot with all the stuff I do with radio and everything. And then, of course, the stuff with Believe. But the one lesson I learned, we talked about this off air before we started, I'm done putting my opinion in written form on Facebook. Like, just done with it, like, because it's almost like people kind of wait for you to be wrong. Like, you can be right 20 times and no one will give you the credit for it. Yeah, that one time where you're wrong, it's like they're waiting in the bushes to jump out like, haha, you said this 3 weeks ago and now it's not true. And I'm here to do this and make a post and we're all going to point and laugh at you. And I'm just like, I woke up this morning to that and I'm like, wow, like, really? Y'all were really waiting this long just to see us be wrong about something with the Panthers? Again, I'm going to trust the people that I talk to in the building, such as Schuyler and Joe Person from The Athletic. And
like I told you yesterday on the show, like you point blank asked me if I thought he was going to get traded, and I said no. Like I did not think that. Like again, I had been hearing that there had been conversations between Scott and other teams, most notably LA and San Francisco. But did I think that they would ever get to a point where they could agree on something before November 1st? I didn't really get that feeling. But like literally 2 to 3 hours after we finished recording, we heard talks are intensifying. So like that just goes to show you how quickly things can change in this business.
And it's crazy. It reminds me of the people that come down on doctors that said that the COVID vaccine would work or that would be, the end all or whatever. Knowing full well that this is a rolling ball or whatever. Things change over time as more things are found out. When I'm online talking about, they're not going to trade McCaffrey, it's so much dead cap, blah 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 blah. His extension just kicked in, and he's healthy. Like it didn't make sense to trade him really at that point. When I said that, Matt Rule still had a job. Robbie Anderson was still here. They were losing games by one possession. Like there was no reason to trade him at that point. In the past week and a half, so much stuff has happened internally with the Panthers. Plus, people got to remember this too. What we had been hearing really from the start was that it was going to take multiple first-round picks for them to get rid of McCaffrey. And we were just like, no one's going to give that up for a running back. What changed was that Scott Fitterer apparently got the permission from David Tepper to do something without the first-round picks. And once he did that, that opened up the whole thing.
Yeah, I thought that was really kind of cool for Scott to kind of go in depth with the trade because, a lot of these trades that go on, whether it be NFL or whatever, you don't really understand what happened in the process that got them to the agreeing of the trade, right? So, Scott's always been 100% real with the media. He's always said, he probably gives more than what most GMs do. He explained the whole process. He said they got their first kind of offer on Christian last Friday. They didn't really get into deep talks until this Tuesday. There was only 3 hard offers on the table. A lot of the other offers was just kind of testing out the water. Like, I just thought that I can't even remember where I was going with this now, but
no, I agree. I didn't expect him to be that in depth with how the process happened. And I could see from the way he explained it, I could see how eventually they landed on doing the deal as opposed to just spur of the moment. Hey, let's trade Christian McCaffrey for a couple of picks, which a lot of people online are kind of frame it as that they were always trying to shop McCaffrey. I don't think they were ever shopping McCaffrey.
Where I was going with that was when you were talking about how they didn't get that first round pick, and he explained that they have some charts and some stuff that they laid out to try and figure out how to make up for not having that first round pick because LA and San Francisco didn't have that. The teams that did have the first round picks were just not interested enough to part ways with that first round pick. So I don't know who those teams are, where they are currently in the draft order, but for them, they looked at, okay, the 2, 3, and 4 plus a 5th in next year's draft. If you combine all of that together, it gets it pretty close to being like a first round grade. It wasn't exactly a first round grade, but it was close enough to where they felt comfortable. And two, if you think about it, like he said in his press conference, if they just get a first round pick for him, that's one pick. That's one chance to get it right. If you get that player wrong, then you lost the trade completely.
Yeah.
Where you have 4 picks to get this thing right. Now, are you going to bank on a 5th round pick in 2 years? Probably not, but at least you have those assets now in your back pocket.
Too, something else, it feels like what they're doing is erasing Matt Rule's fingerprint because I started thinking a little bit deeper on this. McCaffrey got that extension right when Rule came in. He still had a bit left on his original rookie deal, if I'm not mistaken, when they gave him the extension. So maybe this was a way of David Tepper saying, I'm cleaning the books, I'm getting everything out, and we're starting fresh. This is what I should have did to begin with, and I didn't. We held on to some pieces. We should have just cleared the whole thing and started fresh that way. And the McCaffrey deal was one of the ones that, to us, we still feel like, $12 million a year for McCaffrey was a bargain. Like by the time you got to the end of it, he may have been in line for another contract at 28 or whatever year he would have been in. but I understand why they did it. I don't understand why they did it now. Like they could have did this in the offseason. Like they could have did this, before we got to this year.
I think the reason they did it now is because of what's happened the last 2 years, right? He's played in 2 games or 10 games combined over the last 2 seasons coming into this year due to all of the injuries. If you're going to trade Christian McCaffrey, now is probably the best time to do it, because what happens if he goes out there this Sunday and tears his ACL, or he breaks, some sort of bone or something? Then all of a sudden that trade value just drops dramatically.
Especially when he's 75% of the offense from what we saw last week.
So now is the best time to do it. If they were going to make this move, it makes the most sense, because now is when you're going to get the most out of the return. And the other reason why I believe they won't make any major catastrophic moves in terms of some of those younger guys is because they truly do believe in Brian Burns and Derek Brown as part of the future, and those other guys. When you trade Christian McCaffrey, like, as great of a player as he is and as dynamic of a player as he is and all the things that he can do for you on the offensive side of the ball, like, at the end of the day, he's still a running back that's had injury issues, right? So trading away a running back doesn't necessarily signal to me that, like, they're going complete rebuild. But, I mean, in a way it is, because the offense is already putrid, right? Yeah. It's already bad. It's going to be even worse without McCaffrey. He is the entire offense. But at the end of the day, he is a running back. He's not a guy that 4 years from now they're going to look at and say, dang, I wish we still had Christian McCaffrey. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but we all know the lifespan of a running back in the NFL. It's not very long. Brian Burns, Derek Brown, those guys are going to be here 10, 12 years and playing at a very high level still. Those are more valuable positions. It's harder to find defensive ends that are really good at getting after the passer. Really hard to find a really good receiver. Really hard to find a good, cornerback like J.C. Horn or a good defensive tackle like Derek Brown. You can replace running backs. I'm not saying Christian McCaffrey is replaceable, but you can make up for it.
Is that your house? That scared me to death. I thought I was in my house. Oh my gosh. Woo! Oh my gosh, that scared the crap out of me. I thought that was in my living room. Like I looked around, I thought there was.
I knew it was going to happen at some point. I knew it was going to happen at some point.
Oh my gosh! I thought there was a Doberman in my living room. I looked over. Like, what's going on? We'll end it with this. Someone mentioned this to me earlier. I'm trying to name a Panther legend that was other than Luke Kuechly that's been able to leave here on their own terms, like that's been able to leave here without getting traded off or cut or whatever. And I started going through, like, if you go through your top 10 Panthers of all time, yeah, all of them. I mean, from Cam Newton, Steve Smith, Jake Delhomme,
Thomas
Davis. I'm missing a few. John Beeson. Ryan Khalil. Not Ron. He retired, but Jordan Gross kind of got forced into retirement because they were going to get rid of him. Greg Olsen, because he finished with the Seahawks, I think it was. After they cut him, it's like, I get it. It's the name of the game. It's the business, but it's not doing a whole lot of favors. So I feel Panther Nation today, because I feel that feeling again, like that feeling that we all felt when Cam got cut, or when Steve Smith got cut. This feels like that. I can't think of one where we've traded a player and basically their prime off to another team. I don't think we've had anything like that I can remember off the top of my head, but it feels like one of those, okay, we're losing a face of the franchise. Like, I got to change the intro to Believe in Carolina Panthers. Like, I was thinking about that.
Right. Yeah.
I got to change it. That opens up the intro, and I'm like, now I got to, all right. So I got to do all this stuff before Monday and get the intro changed over. Even Julius Peppers. Aaron on Facebook mentions Julius Peppers here. And Julius left in free agency for like 8 years and then came back at the tail end of his career. So he kind of finished, but it wasn't on his own terms. If he could have had his way, I would imagine Pep would have wanted to be here the whole time. But Richardson kind of pushed him out a little bit. I don't know. It's that's all in the past. But my point being, usually the Panther greats, the legends, the ones that we all love, they don't end it here on their own terms. And
well, like you said, there a lot of those guys were probably already out of their prime by the time those things happened. This is the first that I can remember in a while where like it's clear as day that there's still a lot of really good football left ahead for that player, and that being Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, well, we wish C-Mac luck. I hope he wishes us the best as we figure out how to do 2 podcasts a week with this Carolina Panthers unit going forward. Another game. I say all this and I'm like, watch us win on Sunday, like randomly. We'll just randomly beat Tampa, and it'll be like, how did they win? They don't have McCaffrey. They don't have a quarterback. Like what did they do? I don't know. I feel bad for Steve Wilkes too, and I'll end it there because he's getting evaluated on this, and like they're taking his players away. Again. I don't know. We'll have plenty to talk about draft, head coaching thing. My whole planting the flag for go after Jim Harbaugh starts today. Like this is literally, I wanted him instead of Rule to begin with. I felt like if you wanted a guy that could do the stuff that Matt Rule was trying to do, kind of be hands-on, sort of the pseudo GM type guy. That's what Jim Harbaugh left the NFL for, because he couldn't get that in San Francisco. So he left and went to Michigan, built a top 4 program. But I feel like, say like this year, Michigan breaks through, gets to the national championship, wins it. That would be the perfect time for Jim Harbaugh to walk back off into the NFL. And who better to do it with than with a team that's going to have a bunch of draft picks, apparently. And maybe the number 1 pick. And maybe the number 1 overall pick. So he can get his quarterback. He can kind of set up the lines, his offensive, defensive lines the way he wants them. They already have the makings of a defense from the picks that we've had the previous couple of years. It's the same blueprint he walked into in San Francisco. So, and I think a lot of the fans, if there was rumors of another college coach taking this job, I think a lot of them, I mean, I can't speak for him, but I would feel like Harbaugh would be an exception. Yeah. Like if there was anybody else, I don't know about that, but. I mean, he has experience in the pros. He's had winning teams in the pros. He's took a team to the Super Bowl. The DNA of how he builds his teams, I think it's familiar to Panther fans in terms of run heavy, big offensive lines, defensive lines that get after the quarterback. We'll have plenty of time for me to get on my Jim Harbaugh kick, because I woke up with that today. I was like, I want Jim Harbaugh. They're starting over. Now's the time. Let's go get Jim Harbaugh. So. Don't worry about Sean Payton. Let's get that over with now. No, that ain't happening. Sean Payton is our new Bill Cowher, because that was what the deal was back in the day. Everyone was like, Bill Cowher should come coach the Panthers. His daughter goes to school at NC State, so it makes total sense. And it's like, what? So Payton is the new Cowher, I believe, going forward. But we'll be back in just a bit. Got award-winning sports journalist, sports host from chapelboro.com, David Glenn, is going to come on and close us out. You've been listening to The Rundown here on WWBG 1470 AM and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com.
You're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson.
Walkertown Auto Sales. Look no further when shopping for your next vehicle. Located in the heart of the Triad at 3076 Walkertown View Drive in Walkertown, Walkertown Auto Sales specializes in affordable and reliable used cars, trucks, and SUVs. They offer financing with good credit, bad credit, or no credit, with interest rates as low as 3.9%. With knowledgeable employees that are always willing to go the extra mile, you'll drive away with the car of your dreams at Walkertown Auto Sales. Check out the entire online inventory now at WalkertownAutoSales.com.
People don't like to talk about the earthly business of dying, but when my mother got sick, my father and I faced that reality. The help we received from Mountain Valley Hospice made all the difference in her quality of life. Their in-home care was remarkable, and when the time came, the Woltz Hospice home was a godsend. My mother was able to live her best life even as she was leaving it.
Contact Mountain Valley Hospice at mtnvalleyhospice.org.
Hey, Pops, where you want to go eat tonight?
I'm going to go get me some good Southern cooking at Ball Brothers down by the airport in Winston.
No, Pops, it's Bell Brothers, and they closed years ago. It's Taste of the Triad now.
Taste of the Triad? Is it in the old Ball Brothers building?
Yup.
Can I still get baked chicken and collard greens?
Sure can.
How about neck bones, meatloaf, and pork chops?
Taste of the Triad has all that.
So they ain't got pinto beans, tater salad, mac and cheese, or fried okra?
Pops, they have all that, plus homemade cakes and cobblers and sweet potato pie.
Well, then I don't care what they call it. Let's go eat.
Taste of the Triad. Open daily for lunch with $5.99 specials from 11 to 2 and chef specials daily. Don't miss the Saturday brunch from 9 to 1 and the soulful Sunday dinner when you come out of church full of the word, but hungry for Southern comfort food. Taste of the Triad in the old Bell Brothers building at Old Walkertown Road and North Liberty in Winston-Salem.
That's good Southern cooking.
Find your next car at Auto Store of North Carolina in Walkertown. Their goal is to make car shopping and car buying experience fast, friendly, and easy. They have helped hundreds of customers get behind the wheel of a newer, reliable, quality used car, and they can help you too. Stop by and speak with one of their sales professionals today and drive away with your new car. The Auto Store of North Carolina, 4964 Reedsville Road in Walkertown. Give them a call at 336-595-8550 and view the current inventory of vehicles at autostoreofnc.com.
Back to the rundown with Desmond Johnson.
Welcome back into the rundown. WWBG 1470 AM, your new home for Triad Sports here in the area. Desmond Johnson here with you, as I am every Saturday morning live, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Get caught up on everything you need from the week and get ready for the sports weekend. Of course, as we talked about all morning long, the main story here in the state of North Carolina, the trade of Christian McCaffrey to the San Francisco 49ers, which was done late Thursday night. As soon as it went down, I already knew that I had to go find my guy, David Glenn, to get his opinion on this. David Glenn joining us here on the rundown. DG, what's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm doing great, Des. Good to be with you again.
So let's normally I put you in the sports buffet, which is basically an excuse for me to be able to ask you a variety of questions in 15 to 16 minutes for dealing with North Carolina sports. Of course, this one, though, I got to start off with what the hell just happened? Your initial thoughts on Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers.
Part of my first thought, Des, was it's amazing how frequently some of the best players in Carolina Panthers history do not remain Panthers from beginning to end. And I know that's a little bit of an old-fashioned thing where people of my generation and those older than I am remember somebody being drafted by a team in whatever sport and kind of ending with that team 10 or 15 or even 20 years later. We know that's less common, but it happened with Luke Kuechly of the Panthers. But if you and I made a list of the 10 Panthers, the greatest Panthers of all time, some started with a different team and were traded to the Panthers, like a Greg Olsen, the great tight end.
Yeah.
But others, Julius Peppers was a Panthers draft pick, but went elsewhere before coming back. It has just become incredibly rare to go from A to Z, as Kuechly did, as one of the legendary all-time Panthers. And I think when you're a star running back in particular, Christian McCaffrey will turn 27 next summer, and that is old in running back years, believe it or not. And with the Panthers struggling so much, I think the Panthers owner, David Tepper, felt that a lot of high draft picks would be even more compelling to whoever the next head coach is than building around Christian McCaffrey as a soon to be 27-year-old running back. So there's a lot of moving parts with this. It is a sad day to see one of the best players in franchise history leave, but I think David Tepper's playing the long game here.
The Believe in Panthers podcast that I do with Sports Illustrated, Schuyler, Callihan, and Jonathan Stewart, the all-time leading rusher in Panthers history, we've talked these scenarios the past couple of weeks, and Stu was adamant that the Panthers are not tanking, that they're not going in intentionally trying to lose football games. But after this happened, I went back and thought about that Los Angeles Rams game on Sunday and the high school offense that they trotted out there, where they really weren't even allowing a pass further than 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, and it felt intentional. Would you say over the past 10 days, the things that have happened with this Panthers franchise, from firing Matt Rule, trading Christian McCaffrey, trading Robbie Anderson, who apparently they were all on the trading block before their trades actually took place. Robbie was being shot before the incident on Sunday, and now the Christian McCaffrey trade. are the Panthers tanking? Because it feels like they're tanking. Like, I'm not saying the players are actively trying to lose football games, but it feels like the front office is trying to intentionally lose more than they win this season. Are you starting to catch that vibe? Because some of these moves don't really make a lot of sense in terms of dominoes to me. I get the gathering of picks or whatever, but why now? Like, why do this at this moment?
My short answer is yes. And I like the way you phrased that question, because sometimes when people hear tanking, they believe either that the guys on the field aren't trying, which you and I know is not the case. They are definitely trying. Keep in mind, they either need to keep their own job or put down enough good film that somebody else wants to hire them. So those guys are trying. There's no doubt about that. Another form of tanking is when the organization holds back star players and plays more youth for the longer build. I don't think that's the case here. I think it's a combination where the Panthers know they don't have a good quarterback situation for what seems like the fourth or fifth year in a row. They are off to a slow start. Matt Rule was not going to be the answer. David Tepper, remember, had to pull the trigger on a very expensive buyout worth tens of millions of dollars. And that's after he paid the Baylor buyout just to get Matt Rule. So that's an incredibly expensive mistake. Fortunately, Tepper's one of the wealthiest owners in all American sports, so he can afford it. But yeah, this is a form of tanking. And this trading of a two-time All-Pro running back for a cachet of draft picks is the ultimate example of sacrificing 2022 on the hopes of attracting that next head coach and having those draft picks to build something for the longer-term future. And, one of those high draft picks next year is probably going to be a quarterback. Not from the 49ers trade, but their own pick, obviously. If they finish with a bad enough record, that pick will be high enough that they won't have to trade up to find a quarterback. So all these things do reflect a form of tanking. And I'm sure David Tepper would prefer building for the long term because that's easier for fans to hear.
David Glenn with us, longtime sports writer, columnist, radio host here in the state of North Carolina. Follow him on Twitter at David Glenn Show. The guy I wanted when they were hiring Matt Rule, the guy I was really kind of out there asking for, but I don't think they ever really interviewed, is Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh. Would you kick the tires on Harbaugh? Would you go with another big splash again, kind of coach? But at least this would be different. He's got professional experience. He had success in the NFL. You'd have to back up a Binks truck to get him out of Michigan more than likely. But do you go after somebody like that, or are you going for one of these hot defensive coordinators, like a Raheem Morris or someone to that effect? Like, where do you go? Because I feel like we're staring into the abyss right now, and it's like, if Christian McCaffrey can get traded, no player is safe on this team to me. Like, any player can get traded for the right price. I'm looking at Brian Burns. He's on an expiring rookie deal. If they're really trying to just completely rebuild this thing from top to bottom, if you're going to do that, go ahead and trade Brian Burns at that point. There's no reason to keep DJ Moore and some of these other things if you're going to trade off the face of the franchise and a week after you fired the head coach. So where would you go from here if you were David Tepper? What kind of coach are you looking for?
It's a guessing game. I mean, I would prefer an offensive guy because you're going to have to draft a quarterback high, and you would want somebody that can mentor that young quarterback that'll probably be picked high in the first round next year. In an ideal world, it would be somebody with the skill set of Sean Payton. Payton is an unlikely candidate for the Panthers, in part because, remember, the Saints still have his contractual rights, and the last thing they're going to do is give him up easily to especially a member of the same division. So I think Panthers fans should probably abandon the idea of it being Sean Payton.
I feel like Sean Payton's our new Bill Cowher.
Yeah, right. That's a great point. He'll come back. It's just not going to be with the Carolina Panthers in all likelihood. So who else fits that mentoring of a quarterback type description? I don't think David Tepper would be afraid to go the college route again. And your example with Harbaugh obviously would not be what Matt Rule was, and that was a first-time NFL head coach. There is a learning curve. And first-time NFL head coaches pulled from the college ranks, generally speaking, over history, do not fare very well.
Yeah,
so
not everybody's Jimmy Johnson. Yeah,
right. Matt Rule is in that dumpster. There are always exceptions, but I think David Tepper's the kind of guy that is not at all bound by convention. I think if the right candidate was a offensive coordinator in the NFL right now, defensive coordinator in the NFL, recycled head coach, college coach, I think if he finds the right guy that has his vision, that's all he needs. But given his current circumstances with just this horrific quarterback play, I think he would lean to the offensive side of the ball. And if not the head coach, if it's somebody who's not an offensive guy, they better bring an offensive coordinator to the table if they want to be considered by David Tepper.
We're in the sports buffet. It was just heavy with Panther meat at the very beginning of the table. We're going to slide down to NBA regular season started this past week. Of course, we announced last week that Tobacco Road will be producing Charlotte Hornet broadcasts here in the Triad on WWBG 1470 AM. Our first broadcast November the 2nd, 8 p.m. tip-off against the Chicago Bulls. So that's right around the corner. The Hornets surprising folks opening night. Huge victory versus the San Antonio Spurs on the road. If I'm not mistaken, it was the biggest season opening win in Hornets history. They had set franchise records for points scored in the first quarter and the second quarter. It's a young team. No LaMelo out with the ankle injury. Thoughts on the Hornets? Can this Hornets team actually make the playoffs in the East? Because I think a lot of people were on this whole tank for Victor Wembanyama thing, but I think they got too many good players to even attempt to do that.
Yeah, I think the playoffs should be the goal. That's the bottom line. You know, this is a team that was right around a 500 ball club last year. Not great, but not horrendous. And they have spent a lot more seasons in their existence out of the playoffs than in the playoffs. So I think they have a chance, especially when Ball comes back. He's a heck of a player and a lot of fun to watch. They may need to win ugly, though. I don't think they're going to be as prolific offensively on most nights as they were against the Spurs. Terry Rozier had an outstanding debut, so he'll be a nice combo when LaMelo Ball does return. I think there's a handful of guys like PJ Washington that the Hornets really need to take that next step and be an even bigger impact player. Gordon Hayward, obviously being healthy again, is going to be a big help. So I think it's setting the bar at returning to the postseason. But when you look around the rest of that conference, obviously the Hornets, to me, don't look anything like contenders like the Celtics or the Bucks or the Sixers or the Nets or even others.
Yeah, it seems to be like two tiers in the Eastern Conference where you've got that top 5 or 6, and then underneath that you've got teams like the Hornets. I'd probably throw the Hawks in there, maybe the Knicks, teams like that where they're still young, kind of growing. I've always said this Hornets nucleus just needed a chance to play. Like I keep seeing people say we need more draft picks and all these other things. This is one of the youngest teams in the league, and there's so many guys that they've drafted the past 3 years alone that just haven't got minutes to really, so we can see what they are. Guys like Kai Jones, James Bouknight, guys that were first-round draft picks, Mark Williams this past year. I'm kind of fine with letting just the young guns kind of play this season and grow together. It reminds me of 2012, 2013 Golden State. Not to say that the ceiling's the same, but kind of the same situation. They had a stockpile of picks that were playing together. Steph was young. Clay, I think, was a rookie. Draymond was a rookie. Monta Ellis was still on that team. And eventually they had to kind of get better by subtracting, by trading Monta Ellis away. I could see Terry Rozier being that thing down the road. And then you kind of settled on a core. That core grew and they added to it as they went. That's kind of the path I'm hoping that the Hornets are on. But I was very encouraged by their play on Wednesday night, and we'll of course keep track with them throughout the rest of the season. Over in college football, buzz is starting to build about freshman quarterback Drake Maye at UNC. How good do you think his odds are of winning the Heisman Trophy? Which, you know, a couple years ago, this would have been a bananas conversation to have about any freshman being up for Heisman consideration. It was like a unicorn if that happened. Now it seems like it's more prevalent the past couple of years for freshmen to really get considered, and Drake is having a fantastic offensive year. What are your thoughts on Drake Maye and his the potential for him to be a Heisman candidate?
Well, it's amazing because there were only 2 ACC teams this whole season that either did not have their own starting quarterback returning or an incoming transfer who had started at his previous school. So it was only Duke and Carolina that needed to find the next guy. And Duke has found its in Riley Leonard, and Carolina definitely has found its next guy in the post-Sam Howell era with Drake Maye. The Heisman conversation is very different. And as you know, Des, you and I have covered a lot of these races. Your team needs to win at a really high level for you to be considered almost all the time. In other words, if this Carolina team somehow figures out a way to not only win the division, but put up 10 or 11 wins. And right now, remember, they're 6-1, and they're in better position than anybody else in the Coastal Division. But because of their weak defense, they could stumble to 8-4 or something like that. There are not many even elite players with huge numbers that end up as Heisman candidates from an 8-4 football team. And when you look at the list right now, C.J. Stroud, quarterback, Ohio State, right? That's an undefeated football team. Hendon Hooker, quarterback, Tennessee. Strangely enough, formerly of Virginia Tech, where he wasn't all that good. But the Volunteers are undefeated. So it's always – you have to have huge numbers, usually from a key position like quarterback or running back. Drake Maye is going to check those boxes. But generally speaking, you better be on a really highly ranked team as well. And it remains to be seen if there's enough of a supporting cast, not offensively, but I mean just, the three phases of the game. Are the Tar Heels enough to remain a nationally ranked team? If that happens and he keeps throwing and running a little, well, then you'll see his name rise up there with Hendon Hooker and C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young of Alabama and even some other quarterbacks and probably get, into that top half a dozen candidates. Right now, I don't think Drake Maye is in that top half a dozen or so.
I'm sitting here looking at the ACC standings. David Glenn here with us on the rundown. In the Atlantic in particular, is this the strongest you've ever seen one of these two divisions in comparison to like nationally? Because the Atlantic right now, I'm looking, Clemson's ranked, Syracuse is ranked, Wake is ranked, NC State is ranked, Florida State was ranked. But the top five teams in the Atlantic have been or are currently ranked in the top 25. And Clemson and Syracuse getting after it later on today. It doesn't feel like there's like a juggernaut though. Like it's not like it's Clemson and everyone else. Clemson doesn't feel like a regular Clemson team to me in terms of having that element of they're going to blow us out like at home. Would you say that the division that might help though, the case for saying that the division's stronger than it's been really? I can't really remember a year where it was like this. Can you remember a year where we had so many nationally ranked top 25 teams in one of these divisions?
The best year I've ever seen in ACC football was 2016, but it wasn't really imbalanced. That was the year that Clemson won it all. Lamar Jackson was the quarterback at Louisville, and he won the Heisman Trophy. Deshaun Watson was at Clemson at quarterback, and Mitch Trubisky was at Carolina at quarterback. It was just a loaded league. And they ended up with 5 teams in the national top 25. They ended up with 2 teams in the national top 10. Not just Clemson, but Florida State was really good that year. I believe it's the best year in the 70-year history of ACC football. So that's, 6 years ago now. What's going to be interesting to see, Des, I think you're right that there's no juggernaut. Clemson's kind of 1A, and Wake Forest took the Tigers to double overtime, so we'll call the Deacons 1B. The remaining depth there is going to be intriguing because NC State lost its starting quarterback, Devin Leary, for the season. So the Wolfpack could fall from 5-2. If he had stayed healthy, I think they would be a third big-time team in that division. Syracuse is 6-0, goes to Clemson this week. I think the Orange are a little bit of a pretender. I think they'll have a good season. I don't think they're undefeated caliber, and I think the Tigers will prove that this weekend. And then Florida State.
Syracuse has only played. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Syracuse has only played 1 game away from home. I don't know if a lot of people even realize that they played 6 games or 5-0 at home, and then the 1 game away.
We'll learn a lot more about the Orange this weekend. And then Florida State is 4-3. They're definitely taking steps forward for Mike Norvell, but I don't know if they're great yet. So. Hey, starting with Clemson and Wake Forest, I think they're the 2 best teams in this league in either division. And I think they're both capable of finishing in the national top 10. And who knows, with Clemson at 7-0, maybe the Tigers can make another run at a college football playoff. But, yeah, your starting point for the question is a great one. There are not a lot of examples in ACC history or certainly not since they went to the divisional alignment, this is the last year we're going to have that, where you had 4 or 5 really intriguing teams out of 7 in a single division. By that measuring stick, this really is rarefied air.
It's crazy too, because if there was ever a year to do away with the divisions, it would have probably been this year. Because it feels like Clemson and Wake, like you said, are the 2 best teams in the entire ACC. I'd probably put Carolina right underneath them. Like you said, Syracuse, we'll see a little bit later on today how they fare. Florida State kind of started out strong, and now they're kind of leveling back out. And, of course, the Devin Leary injury to NC State kind of leveled them down as well. The Coastal is just kind of, after you pass Carolina, it's just like, Although Duke, same way, started out strong. They've kind of leveled down themselves. There was high expectations for Miami when the season started, and that's kind of fallen apart as well. But, I wish that this was the year where they just had everybody together with no divisions, so we could just get the 2 best teams in the ACC championship game. It probably would be a rematch of that classic Clemson-Wake Forest game, that overtime game that we saw earlier in the year. But unless Clemson stumbles twice somewhere over the next month, Wake's going to be the odd man out there. But they'll probably, if they continue to win, they could still get to 11 wins, I think. So we'll keep an eye on the ACC as well. We're out of time. We got to get out of here. Follow DG on Twitter at David Glenn Show, writer for chapelboro.com and accsports.com. Get you ready for your college football kickoffs here. We're right here around the noon hour. So go on, take care of some business, grill something, make some wings, whatever you need to do for Saturday. We got to get out of here. We will talk to you live next week. You have been listening and watching The Rundown here on WWBG 1470 AM.
You're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson.